Hello guys, what's up? This is Mortaza. Welcome back to a Coder Journey. In this episode, I am going to teach you how to implement callbacks in JavaScript. In the last episode, we talked about callbacks. I told you that one of the oldest ways to implement asynchronous code in JavaScript is to use callbacks. And basically, callbacks allow us to pass in a function as a parameter into another function, and then in that outer function, in that main function, we can do some asynchronous tasks, right? We can carry out something that is going to take some time, and after that operation is complete, we can invoke that function that we have passed in as parameter. This is how callbacks work. In this video, I'm going to show you how to implement a simple, a basic callback, and then we are going to talk about the challenges and the problems associated with using callbacks. I told you we have something called pyramid of doom or callback hell, which basically means that as you continue working and using callbacks, there will be multiple levels of indentation in your code, which will make the code difficult to understand and unmaintainable. Anyway, first off, let's in this folder episode 4, right, we have a JavaScript file. It's called callback pattern, and here I am going to declare an outer function, right, the main function, which is going to take in another function as parameter, right? And then in the body of our outer function, we are going to carry out a long running process. So I am going to declare my function. I'm going to call it fetch data. Suppose that in this function, we are going to fetch some data from a, database. We are going to read a file, or we are going to send a request, for example, to a backend API and then receive the response. And as I told you, we need to take in a parameter, right, which is going to be the function which we want to invoke after that long running process is complete. I'm going to call this callback, right? And in the body of this method, I am not going to read the contents of a file, or call a backend API or something. I am going to simulate a long running task, right? Something that is going to take a lot of time. And in order to do that, I'm going to use set timeout. In JavaScript, set timeout helps us to start a process after a certain amount of time. And in this context, I'm going to go and select 1 second. So I'm going to say that after 1 second, right, do this thing that I am going to, put here. In order to do that, I'm going to, simulate that I have read some data from the server, right? And then I'm going to call the function that I have here, passing in the data which I have declared here. So basically, after 1 second, which is that long running process, which could be, reading from a file, a database, or sending a request to a backend API and, waiting for the response, I am going to do this. I am going to declare the data. This is probably the data that we are, reading from the file or the database. And then we are going to call the function, right? This is the callback, and pass in the data. This is how we declare our main function and the callback that will be invoked in the body of this main function. Now, in order to use this function, I'm going to invoke it here, right? I'm going to say fetch data. Remember, as the parameter, we need to declare a function. I can, of course, declare a separate function and then pass that function into this invocation of fetch data. But here I am going to declare this function, this parameter, as an inline arrow function. This function is going to take in a parameter. The parameter is called result. And in the body, what I can do is to just write down the result in the console, right? So basically, this is the callback function. This is what I am assigning to this variable. And I am invoking this, function here, passing in the data. Data, of course, will be the result here. And what will happen is that it will be, logged to the console. Now I can, invoke this fetch data. I can, run this JavaScript file, all I need to do is to go to my terminal, and then I'm going to say node, and I'm going to say callback, not callback hell, callback pattern. And after 1 second, I see this fetch data. I can, for example, change this to 3 seconds, right? And then after 3 seconds, right, after this long running process is complete, after we receive our data from our backend API, we are going to do something else. We are going to carry out our asynchronous, our callback function. So this is how basically you can, write asynchronous code in JavaScript. And this is the simplest form of using a callback. Next, I want to talk about callback hell, or the pyramid of doom, which is basically, these levels of indentation in your code when you take, using callbacks to the extreme. Here, again, I am declaring, a function, async operation 1. This is actually the declaration of these functions, and I am invoking this async operation 1, and in the parameter I want a callback, and as the callback I am passing in this function with 2 parameters, the first parameter and the second parameter, right? And then I am going through some conditional statements. Then here I am calling async operation 2. Async operation 2 again takes in the data and the callback. So async operation 2, the data, right, and the callback, the function with 2 parameters. Again, I am doing some operations here, and then I am calling async operation 3. Async operation 3 again needs a data and a callback. Again, here I am, putting in result 2, and then the callback is here, right? And then I am doing something else here. As you can see, when you chain these callbacks method to one another, for example, these 3, you are increasing the level of indentation of your code, which makes the code difficult to understand, very error prone. For example, it is absolutely possible that you make a mistake and, I don't know, pass in result 1 here, right? So it is very unmaintainable, it is very difficult to understand and to reason about, and it is very, error prone. In my clean code series on my YouTube channel, A Coder Journey, I have talked about the fact that, in your code, you need to decrease these levels of indentation, right? And it is related to a concept called cyclomatic complexity. I'm not going to go over that in this video, but as you can see, when you start using callbacks, little by little, you are increasing the level of indentation. And this is one of the biggest challenges of using callbacks. And actually, promises resolve this challenge very effectively. In the upcoming videos, we are going to cover promises, and you will see for yourself that, when you are using promises, even if you are chaining them to one another, you are not going to increase the level of indentation in your code, and your code will remain maintainable, readable, and very clean. This is it for this video. As I told you, in this video, we talked about the simplest example of using callbacks. In JavaScript, we also talked about the pyramid of doom, or callback hell, which basically is one of the biggest challenges associated with using callbacks in our JavaScript applications, something that promises can handle very effectively. Stay tuned, guys, for the next video, where I will be talking about promises and how we can resolve the challenges of, callbacks by taking advantage of promises. Till later, bye-bye.